you, Charles, asked us to think about how the history of Dallas has affected the Dallas that we have today. I was on the very first Goals for Dallas. I was on Quality of Life Task Force, and I was just a young married gal, and right after the Kennedy assassination. With Goals for Dallas, we had all races, points of view, all walks of life coming together to talk about what it means to build a good city. And Dallas at that time, we were in pain. Those of us after the Kennedy assassination who traveled various parts of the country or the world would not admit we were from Dallas. It was a dark, dark time for our city. And yet, that wound was what catapulted our city into the city it is today. I've always heard that the wound is where the healing is. And we've lived this all of my life in Dallas. Now, I want to talk for a minute, being asked about how the history of our city, what is the ground of being for our city that helps us understand the way we build forward. Did you realize that Dallas is planted on 4 geological plates coming together? Just imagine these enormous plates under our city coming together, moving in underneath the city, pushing right up to where the cliff where Mary McDermott Cook lives, that cliff, that Austin chalk, pushing right up to the center of the city. Now imagine these 4 plates coming together and forming what I love to call a turmoiling home underneath us. I remember James Pratt said there were 23 kinds of soil in Dallas, Texas. That's unusual. Now, Fort Worth doesn't have this. The Fort Worth City Council gets together, they agree on zoning issues, they pass ordinances, they go to dinner together, they drink their wine together. Dallas comes together on the city council, and they're just, all the parts of the city are just doing this all the time. And so does the school board. That's who we are as a city. Now, what does it do? If the wound is where the healing is, what does that do to a city? The people of Dallas are continually recovering from a wound that causes us to just spring out into some kind of creative being. It's part of our founding. John Neely Bryan came to this region, this right at the edge of the Trinity River in 1842 with his scout Ned, and he came to trade with the Indians. When he got here, the Indians had been massacred. They were peaceful Indians. They were growing on their land. But there was such turmoil in Texas among the tribal, we had tribal warfare, that the federal troops named Colonel Denton and General Tarrant, now those are 2 names very familiar to us. We have Tarrant County and we have Denton, Texas, had come in and the Indians were massacred. Now, what did John Neely Bryan do, our founder? Well, he said, there are no Indians. I'll just mark off the streets and we'll just send word back to the East Coast that there's land here. Come and bring your families. So out of this terrible beginning grew the beginnings of this very small town we call Dallas. This continues to repeat itself, this saga of being wounded. The wounding of the assassination of our president, of course, caused Dallas's name to be known worldwide. Now, how do we overcome something like that? Well, Eric Johnson had a dream, and that was Goals for Dallas. And because of that, that effort then this city has continued to respond to this continual wounding. We had another one in 1987 where we lost all of our banks. The loans were cut off. We had a terrible economic depression. And in the 80s and 90s, all the downtown buildings were mothballed. Now, it was during that period that we built a plaza that has not been mentioned yet, and that was Pegasus Plaza. That Pegasus Plaza was built because of the myth of Pegasus that forms the frame of our understanding what Dallas is, that Pegasus is born out of the Medusa, that snaky-haired monster, and it always takes a bold act to cut off the head of the Medusa. And if you can do it, then out springs winged Pegasus, who soars about and heals the land. Now, that's been our myth. When we built Pegasus Plaza, I was very much involved in it. When we built Pegasus Plaza, we knew that it was going to resurrect downtown Dallas, and that was, in my opinion, the beginning. Well, Dallas's history is dynamic. We are now the fourth largest metropolitan area in the United States. I know we've built out as far as we should build, and what we have to do now is build through nature, built through caring for the real soul of our city.